we have to be able to come to a place where we can accept what's happened, allow, forgive, and let go. And then we can change the way we look back at it, because we look back at it through the eyes of compassion and loving kindness.
Mhm. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Onion Soup. I'm truly excited to welcome our guest today, Miss Sarah Dawkins. How are you doing today, Miss Sarah?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks, Dexter. And you?
Doing wonderful. So I'm excited to dive into the book you wrote. And it's funny because there's something on the title of your book that my dad says all the time. He says that we suffer not from disease, but dis-ease.
Yes.
So let's dive into that.
Yes. This is, we are not at ease in ourselves. So we suffer from symptoms.
Mm,
And those symptoms are our body speaking to us.
yeah, for sure. So you were a nurse for 20 years, right? Before you dove
I
into
was.
holistic. So what was the transition for you from being a nurse practitioner from 20 years in the hospital and switching over to helping people as a holistic coach?
So I qualified in 2001. Always wanted to be a nurse because my mum was a nurse, and I kind of liked helping people in their vulnerable times. But in 2005, one of my nurse colleagues asked me why I was using pharmaceuticals at home. And I'm like, well, that's normal. That's what we do because that's the way I was raised. That was my beliefs. But something inside me said, well, why would she ask that question? So I set off researching, and I went down a rabbit hole, which led me to lots of rabbit warrens. So lots and lots and lots of reading and researching, which led me to see how powerful our bodies are
Mm,
and how they can heal themselves. So I started tweaking my diet, tweaking my lifestyle, de stressing, going out for more walks. But because I was sort of medically trained and medically raised, my view of healing initially was just that very small in the physical level, kind of. That's how I saw like nutrition, exercise, sleep, and hydration. So I was tweaking all of that in my lifestyle as well as reducing stress, and started my healing journey. So then I became quite conflicted with my work in a hospital, following the doctor's orders and giving out pharmaceuticals. But at home, I'm doing something totally different now. I'm stepping outside of that box. And and in doing so, I'm seeing real tangible results in my own body from the small diet and lifestyle tweaks that I'm making. So I was quite conflicted for a long time in my role.
mm. Wow, that's so interesting to me because I've actually worked in the medical field for nearly 15 years as a medical technologist.
Right.
And, I also started to gravitate towards holistic health and not just treating the symptoms, but really diving deeply to look at the overall
Yeah.
aspects of health. So, when you made that transition over, what did your colleagues say? Because I feel like a lot of people get pretty concerned and in their heads about what everybody else is gonna say.
Well, because I wasn't sure where my life path was going, I always wanted to be a nurse. I still kind of stayed in the hospital doing the hospital's bidding in that medical model, but a lot of my colleagues thought it was crazy. A lot of my family thought it was crazy. But once I'd gone down that rabbit hole and started seeing the results in my own body, I wanted to continue in that vein to see what else I could do for myself.
Mm. You talked about getting started with the diet and exercise, but can you be more specific? Because a lot of times people want to dive more deeply into their own health, but really don't know what to do.
Sure. In my journey of healing, I discovered, or call it, four pillars of healing. And as I said before, I was just in the physical plane doing those physical things. So Diet-wise, I stopped eating gluten and dairy because in doing so, my digestive system felt a whole lot better. I healed acid reflux. I also healed psoriasis and eczema just by cutting out gluten and dairy and de-stressing a little bit and walking outside in the sunshine without cream. But as I went further into the research and learned a lot more, I realized that there was another three parts to healing because everything in our body is connected to everything else. We can't just isolate. Like the doctors, we've got a cardiologist and a pulmonologist and a oncologist and a dermatologist, and everybody's separated everything out in our body. But yet everything works together harmoniously.
Yeah.
So healing has to be holistic and work everything together harmoniously. So as well as the physical healing, there's mental health healing, emotional healing, and spiritual healing. And I didn't realize about the emotional healing till way down the line. So I started with the physical and then moved on to the mental health because some of the conditions I suffered were mental health orientated. My final condition that I healed was a depression with suicidal thoughts. So I didn't realize at the time what I was doing. I had dogs. I had to go out and walk the dogs twice a day. And I had a friend that picked me up and took me to the gym to help me to get out more. And over a period of time, I believe that being outside walking the dogs and the exercise I was doing in the gym with people helped my mental health. And once that my mind started coming back online, because with a depression, you kind of shut down everything. It's like wading through a treacle trying to make sense of the world. So I started realizing that I was practicing gratitude and mindfulness while I was out on the walk. So initially, I was like dark and in an abyss, and I just was not aware of the outside world. So my world was literally whatever I could see on the footpath in front of me. And suddenly I realized actually there's a whole world out there. And I started looking for things to be thankful for, flowers, the wind in the trees, a small bit of blue sky, because we lived in the UK and it was always
Mm,
cloudy and raining. And so those are the sorry, they were the mental health
mm,
aspects of it. And then as I started to meditate more, I realized there was a spiritual element. And when I say spiritual, I don't necessarily mean religion. It's about coming back into that inner voice inside of us. We've all got one, whatever name you want to give it. But it's about reconnecting back inside of us because often we're so disconnected. Our mind's in one place and our body's in another, and we're not conscious of what's going on between the two. So that the meditation actually brought me back into myself. And then the final piece of my jigsaw puzzle, if you like, was the emotional healing, the fourth pillar. And I didn't realize that was a thing, if you like, until I trained as a coach. And what our trainers were very spiritual people and took us on an internal body wisdom meditation to find a trauma, understand it in a safe space with conversation, and then heal that trauma to be able to allow and forgive and let go. Because a lot of us hold on to what's happened to us. And whilst what happened to us is important, what's really more important is how we hold on to that
mm,
because we're holding it through the eyes of the child that we were. And even though we're an adult now, we're still holding that through the eyes of the child. So we have to be able to come to a place where we can accept what's happened, allow, forgive, and let go. And then we can change the way we look back at it because we look back at it through the eyes of compassion and loving kindness.
mm,
So healing needs to cover all those four pillars to be holistic. And whilst that sounds huge, and it really is, there's a lot of things to do there. The easiest thing to do is whatever anybody aligns with that they want to start with, just one small thing and take one step forward into that small thing that they can do and keep doing that to build a habit and then pick another thing and add that because there is a whole host of things that we can do But initially, it's more about what we're able to do.
Wow, I love that. You know what I like most interesting about that is how you started with the spirituality, really getting out and really starting to meditate, and then you were able to hear your inner child, and by listening to that voice, you can go back and heal. So my question is, for people who 'cause I used to have crippling depression as well. So for people who have depression, how did you slow down those thoughts? Bring yourself kind of out of the darkness?
Yeah. So initially it was just having to walk the dogs outside and my friend taking me to the gym. So that was helpful because it was getting me out of the house because my world, my comfort zone was tiny. When you're in that depressed state, people can reach into you and you don't often see them. They literally have to reach in and grab you and pull you to help you to do something. And in that depressed state, you tend to never want to reach out because you don't want to burden somebody. So, for anybody suffering like we have, I would say, I understand your comfort zone is as tiny as a penny
Mm,
because the world has come crashing in on you. Nobody is coming to save you.
mm,
You have to do the work yourself. And that sounds harsh, and it is, and it's challenging because your comfort zone's so tiny. You have to work on building that comfort zone and making it larger, building it bigger.
mm,
And the only way to do that is to keep stepping out of it. And it's like the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. Because fear isn't dangerous, it's just a normal emotion. So if we can feel into what it is that we're trying to do for ourselves and understand that we've always got far more courage than we ever believed we have. It's deep inside, and sometimes we have to look really hard to find it. But nobody's going to do that work for you. They can support you, they can be by your side and hold your hand, but you have to physically make a choice and do the work. And the more you step out, the easier it gets because you start to build confidence in your abilities. I remember the first time I went to a networking meeting as I set up my first business. I was absolutely shaking inside. And I'd gone with a friend and I just felt so out of my depth. And I walked around, I spoke to a couple of people, but not many because I was just
mm,
so shaky and I felt so vulnerable. I felt so far out of my comfort zone, but I did it. For the next one I went to was a bit easier. And it's about do what you can when you can. But you alone have to do it. You have to keep stepping forwards. You have to feel into that fear and think, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I could fall over, make a fool of myself. But, at the end of the day, that's nothing really.
mm,
And I didn't. I didn't fall over. I might have made a fool of myself, but I don't. My memory is so vague at that time.
mm.
But just keep doing what you can do. But you have to push yourself. You have to make a choice. Do you want to stay in that dark abyss, or do you want your life to be different? And if you want it to be different, only you can step out and make that change.
Ooh, beautifully said. I like to say that fear is the pathway to growth. You know, if it's something that you're afraid of, mine is physical danger, of course. But if there's something that you're afraid of, it's probably because it's blocking you to getting to where it is you really need to go. So you have to push through it. And
Yeah.
my first networking event was very similar. I had gone by myself and trying to start a business, completely terrified. I talked to a few
It
people.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
But
so
we do it. We've done it.
yeah, and it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But with that being said, what's the importance of community? Because really stepping out of that comfort zone, you start to build a group around you.
Yes, yes. And community is really good if it's supportive. You need to be with people who want to be with you, who want to support you. But you also need to be aware of people that will feed the depression or feed the negative thoughts you feel and separate yourself out from that. because it's all too easy to get caught in a negative feedback loop talking about awful things. The idea is build a community around those that can support you, that can help you to step out, that can help you to increase your comfort zone and be with more like minded people.
Mm. How do you recognize when someone is feeding off your energy like that?
They will drain your energy. So it's a case of when you're with somebody, it's about feeling into yourself and thinking, is this person lifting me up or pulling me down? Do I feel that I want to be with this person? And sometimes fear and anxiety can trick us. And we're thinking, no, this person's really bad. But actually what we're feeling is our own anxiety. So it's about understanding the energy of that person. Are they draining you or are they uplifting you?
Mm, interesting. So one way that I 100% agree with that. One way that I noticed, especially early on when someone was more draining, is they would want to trauma share, you know?
Yes.
And you sit back and so what happened to you and so on and so forth. And then it goes from a uplifting conversation to now I feel like I'm reliving what happened in my past.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's trauma bonding, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because we're finding people who've been through what we've been through and then want to stay in that place. Whereas actually we want to step out of that place and heal ourselves. So it's about recognizing how is the conversation going, and is it uplifting or is it pulling you back down?
Exactly. And talking about healing and that growth and that journey, one thing that I found interesting about your book is that you started writing it and then you stopped for about 5 years and then had an epiphany. So what happened there?
Yeah. So because I was raised in the medical model and went into nursing, when I started healing myself, it was like, wow, this is really mind blowing stuff. I need to share it with the world and help the world to see that they too can heal themselves because, it was not in my sphere of knowledge, this natural self healing. I'd always been take a pill and the pill heals you. So absolute change of mindset, change of core beliefs, wanted to share my own healing. So I wrote out about 10,000 words of my own healing journey, what I'd healed, all the different health problems, how I'd healed with the 4 pillars. And and then that little voice on my shoulder went, "Oh, who do you think you are? You're not worthy of anything. You're not an author." So and I listened to it and I put that book away on my computer for 5 years. Until one day I just woke up, I got to write this book and it's got to be other people. I didn't even know what it was called at the time. I was still, I'd written my own story, but I hadn't got a working title. But the title came to me with more people that came on board.
Wow. And you had about 70, a little over 70 people, right?
74 plus myself. Yeah.
Wow, that's so amazing. So with all the stories that you've compiled in your book, which one stands out the most to you?
I keep going back to the same one. Everybody, they're just all beautiful souls because they've all shared their own healing from their heart to help others to see healing's possible. But the one that really stands out is a guy who healed from multiple sclerosis. And it stands out because his brother pushed him into the doctor's office in a wheelchair. He was quite thin with the MS and in a wheelchair. And they pushed him into the doctor's office and they both watched the doctor go onto Google and ask Google questions about multiple sclerosis. And they both went, well, if the doctor can do that, we can do that. And that was pivotal in his healing. And it makes you think how many doctors are actually doing that and how much is guesswork.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, working in the hospital for so many years and working closely with physicians, you do learn that on the one hand, there's like a flow chart. And on the other, it is literally, let's just go look it up. And which makes sense. We don't memorize everything.
No.
It is called a practice, it's a medical practice. But if, like you said, if they can do it, so can we. And then we
Yes.
can actually choose to go towards the physical medicine as far as the pills and medications, or we can choose to research the holistic and herbs.
Yes. And there's so much that we can do for ourselves on our own healing journey.
Yeah. So when there's somebody that's starting out and maybe getting interested in herbology and what foods they can eat, because you mentioned getting rid of gluten and getting rid of dairy, what replacements would you have for that person?
I I'm a big believer in people should eat what they feel is right for them
Mm,
because some people can't tolerate histamines, some people can't tolerate oligosaccharides, other people can't tolerate other types of food, nightshades. So it's about understanding how your body reacts to food and
mm,
cut out the foods that you feel are giving you symptoms. So for me, I knew the gluten and the dairy caused me acid reflux,
mm,
eczema, psoriasis, digestive problems, and I felt a whole lot better. But what I would say is don't replace a grain with a grain because all the gluten-free food now is still grains. And at the end of the day, it's a processed food in inverted
mm,
commas. So I would say make your own food. There's lots of different ways that you can make food without buying pre-packaged processed food, but understand how it works in your body and how what makes you feel good and what makes you feel sleepy and what causes symptoms and just work with what you feel good with.
mm. So, say if you have a person who has a, let's call it a terrible diet, especially here in America, right? We have the worst diets in the world. So, you have somebody that has a really bad diet. How do they get started with, let me start filtering things out? Because for me, what I did was I fasted for 3 or 4 days, and then I started reintroducing things into my system. So, was that the right thing to do? Or is there like a
Fasting is fabulous for health.
yeah,
It really is because when we're fasting, we're resting our digestive tract. And when we're not digesting food because we're fasting, our body can repair itself more efficiently. So fasting is amazing. Now, not everybody can do a 3-day fast or even a 24-hour fast, but there's lots of different ways to do intermittent fasting. You can eat a sort of a healthy-ish diet for 5 days and then eat a reduced calorie diet for 2. You can eat 2 meals a day instead of 3 meals. There's lots of different ways, different time frames. It's about understanding what works for each person's body.
mm,
My husband and I do either a 16 or an 18-hour fast and then eat in a small window. But it's a choice, but fasting has many, many health benefits, but it takes some understanding and getting used to, because a lot of us, we tend to we eat because we're happy, we eat because we're sad, we eat because we're emotional, we eat because there's a wedding, because there's a funeral, because we're at the theater and there's some popcorn or we're at a movie, and it's just food is a huge part of our lives. And I think we've been conditioned to make it part of our lives. So if we can reduce the priority that we give to food, obviously we need to eat, but we need to eat to nourish our body, not just throw food into our face because the clock says so, or because we've gone to a party, or because we're at the theatre, or, we need to just eat when we're hungry to nourish our body. And it's about understanding the hunger cues as well. Is it really hunger or actually thirst can feel like hunger? So, have a glass of water and see how you feel. Are you really hungry or actually are you dehydrated?
mm. That's so important, honestly, because a lot of times people will overeat when you actually need fluids and you actually need electrolytes, and
Yes.
you really can't tell the difference, which is why people tend to gravitate towards saltier foods.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many calories, if you like, as well as chemicals in drinks. People reach for a Coke or a diet soda, and it's empty calories. There's massive amounts of sugar in the regular sodas, and if you have the diet sodas, it's just loaded with chemicals when they've taken the sugar out. So it's not good for your health.
Yeah. It's really not, and you know what's funny? Recently, what I started doing was I would just get a bottle of carbonated water, and I'll just mix it with some fresh squeezed lemon juice and maybe a little bit of honey, and it tastes just like a soda. It's
Yeah.
it's so crazy. But Sarah, we only have a few minutes left. Is there anything you would like to leave with the audience before we go?
Yes, the biggest thing anybody can do in their lives as part of their healing journey is to look at their stress levels
Mhm.
and ascertain what it is that's causing them stress. Because actually, it's not really things and people that cause us stress, it's how we perceive that person, those words, that situation. And ultimately, we feel stress because we're trying to control a part of it. So if we can look at where our stress comes from and then look at why that situation, that person causes us stress, what is it that we can do for ourselves to help ourselves to reduce our stress levels, to change our perception about what we're trying to do or what we're trying to control. And if we can let go of that need to control, we're able to reduce our stress levels. And just going outside in green space and fresh air is great for de stressing, but that's treating the symptom. And whilst that's a great way to treat stress, realistically, we need to look at what is underpinning, where is it coming from, and why does it make us feel like we do?
Wow, I love that. Our perception of reality is so strong, and
Yeah,
oftentimes all we have to do is alter it in order to make a true core change in ourselves and our own value.
it's a mindset shift, isn't it?
It is, it's so great. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on, and thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Plain Soup. Hope you all have a blessed rest of your day, and have a great one.